What's up, scientists? It's time to grab those lab coats and goggles as today we are going to explore how to record changes in weather and use this information to make predictions. We're going to use some of our information from yesterday's researching as we explored weather outside, and we are going to look at what was the weather like back in the day. But before we get into that, let's look at our essential questions for today's lesson. Now, let's talk about our essential question. Remember, essential questions in science and in different lessons can help us think about what we already know about a topic, and it helps us connect to new ideas that we're going to learn today to help us produce a new thought about the topic. Our essential questions will be focused on our different science topics. So look for keywords. In those keywords, the minute you see them and recognize them, I want you to think, what do I already know about this topic? Once you have that in your mind, you want to look at the question again to see what we're trying to answer today or what are we trying to answer about that topic. It's important to remember that an essential question is like a goal as well. By the end of our science lesson, you should confidently be able to answer the essential question. Let's go over our essential question for today. Let's look at our essential questions for today. Listen to me as I say it first. What tools can be used to gather weather information and how should we record the data? Say that one with me. What tools can be used to gather weather information and how should we record the data? Listen as I read the second one. Why do we record changes in weather? Read that one with me. Why do we record changes in weather? And our last one. How do we make prediction about weather changes? Say this one with me nice and loud. Ready? Here we go. How do we make predictions about weather changes? Nicely done, scientist. Up in the morning and I check my phone to see what the weather's going to be like. There's all this mumbo jumbo on the screen. It tells me the temperature, if it's going to rain, if it's going to be cloudy, how much the wind is blowing outside and how that even affects the temperature. There's so much information on the app. We are going to become those weather people, and we are not only going to collect the information from today, but we're going to collect information from the past too. We'll go over what that looks like today. But before we get into it, um, let's talk about what a meteorologist is and what work they're doing to get us this information fast on our phones and on our TV screens when we watch the news. I started to collect information on your Explore journal to record the temperature, precipitation, wind direction, and weather conditions that you are seeing outside currently. You are going to collect information again for day 2, but that's not the only thing you guys are going to be doing today. With weather, something happens. Weather changes throughout time, but throughout the year, we see certain patterns of weather, and this happens year by year. Today, you guys are going to jump in the past and become weather experts and meteorologists from another time. You are going to use the internet to research different weather data from the year your teacher assigns you. You'll get a chance to pick which years you want to look at. Weather and climate. Let's quickly think about these words and what they have in common and what they have that's different. When we look at weather and climate, there are some things that they do have in common and there's some things that they do have different. A few things that they have in common that we'll talk about when we're referencing the past weather and when we're talking about today's weather is we'll definitely talk about the rainfall, the temperature, and the wind direction. Even back in the day, the different tools we have been using were used to collect data and weather, and all of those informations have been compiled up to give us the climate. That gives me a little bit of an idea what to put on the different side for the climates as well. So let's start on the climate side. When we specifically talk about the word climate, we're talking about collecting data for a long-term period. We're not collecting data on climate based off the information we're collecting by going outside over just 3 days. A long term period means it would take years. Climate, as you can see, is a yearly thing and it also happens in a region or an area. Climate also focuses on the average of different temperatures, precipitation levels, and wind speeds. Whereas weather is more specific. When you guys go outside to collect your data on the weather information for today's weather types, you are looking at specific temperatures, wind directions, and measurements on your rain gauges. As we also mentioned, climate is observed over time, but again, it's a long time. That's different from weather. We're only observing weather for the next 3 days. We're referencing climate here a little bit though, because although we're looking at weather for the next 3 days, we're also looking at weather from the past. Comparing weather from the past in this same region and area during this same time period will give us an idea about how different patterns have stuck around in this area and to compare it with the different years that our group and our different classmates groups pull, we'll be able to have a better idea of the climate in the area. Now, currently, when we go outside, we're observing weather. Weather is a short term observation and it changes often. Like we talked about in some of our past videos, when we talked about temperature, temperature changes throughout the day. It could be one temperature in the morning, another temperature by lunch, and then a different temperature by the time we go to bed. As we observe these different changes throughout the day, we get different weather reports and forecasts. The weather reports are accurate and give us exact numbers and directions. They're not averages, but they're telling us what's actually happening currently. That's different from climate. As we continue to explore weather and collect data on the weather outside, we will also begin to collect data for weather in the past. As you guys prepare for this data collection period, you will spend some time as a class looking on different websites to figure out where can you find good information on weather from past years. This will help you develop a little bit of an understanding of weather patterns in the past and if they match up with what's going on currently. Good luck, scientists, and make sure you're making good observations. A good scientist always takes great notes.